and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.
Welcome to episode 19 of the Out of Voices podcast. As always, here are your hosts, Keem and Esmeralda D. Apollo.
Why is it that you only say your first name, but you say my whole name?
Because your name sounds great when you're announcing something.
Your name doesn't?
No, it really doesn't.
Consistency, please. Consistency, please.
Sometimes I say Keem, sometimes I say Keem. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you always say Esmeralda D. Apollo.
I mean, because your name sounds great when it's, like, said out open loud. It's amazing.
Anyway.
We welcome you back to another show. Once again, this is another show celebrating Pride. And we're going to have a great topic later on today with an excellent guest, one of my good friends, a friend who got me into podcasting, Morgan Stringer from the Bisexual podcast. She's amazing, and she's going to be our guest later. And look, I know the segment's going to be awesome. So please tune in for that. We've had a pretty great... We were actually recording this on the weekend. We've had a pretty great weekend.
It's been a good weekend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some nice punk bands.
We went down to the 901 Comics anniversary show yesterday and saw the Glory Holes and some other bands that I don't remember their names, which is a shame because I feel like I should remember their names.
Saw some white peopling.
Yeah, check out Keem's Facebook page for the video of that.
I might post that on our show page too. I loved it. I love seeing white people mosh. It's funny.
Especially like on a street corner in the middle of the afternoon. But yeah, that was pretty awesome. But yeah, it's been a pretty good weekend so far.
It's been a great weekend. I enjoyed myself. And I'm going to move on into the news before we get sidetracked. I'm going to go first today.
What?
Because Esmé's news story is more centered around Pride.
I'm keeping it topical, guys.
She's topical. I am not topical. This time, normally I'm, going to get with something I'm angry about or something I'm making fun of. This one is going to be a real positive one for me today.
I'm so excited.
So let's take this down to Jackson, Mississippi, where I'm going to butcher his name, but Chokwe Antar Lumumba became the new mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. And if you guys, our listeners, haven't heard of this man, you need to go look him up. He is an amazing black activist. I'm just gonna give you some of the organizations he's involved in. I gotta have a list because it's a lot. Because this guy is so awesome. He is awesome. He's expanding work of the Malcolm X grassroots movement, New African People's Organization, Cooperation Jackson, and the Take It Down movement to take down Confederate monuments and the Confederate flag in the South. And this is all part of his People's Platform movement. And man, this guy's awesome. He got 93% of the vote in Jackson, Mississippi.
What? I did not hear that number.
Yes,
holy crap.
93% of the vote. Which, if you guys don't know what that means, Mississippi is the reddest of red states.
Yeah.
And the area around Jackson, Jackson is a pretty majorly black city, but the area around Jackson has been hit recently with charges of segregation. The Madison area has been hit with charges of segregation. Some really horrible policing practices, keeping black people out of certain areas. Of course, Jackson, Mississippi is the state capital of Mississippi, where our illustrious governor, Phil Billy Bryant, is trying to bring the Confederacy back. And right under his nose, Lumumba has won in a landslide. And it's amazing. Like, this guy is going to do great things in Jackson and Mississippi and the country if given a chance. He's 34 years old. He is doing big things. He's the son of the former mayor of Jackson, actually, who died like not long into office. And his father also supported these same movements. And there are some, let's say, there's some suspicion around his death. Current causes or natural causes, but there is some suspicion on the mayor's death, former mayor's death. But his son has defeated the Republican candidate in a landslide in Jackson, Mississippi.
That's amazing.
And that blows my mind. I always give Mississippi shit because I was born here, and Mississippi is great and terrible, mostly terrible, and I give it a lot of shit. But I mean, this is one major victory, not just for Mississippi and not just for Jackson, but the entire country. Because, I mean, you know, like, the current regime in our country is very red, very much what Mississippi is, like, known for.
Yeah.
Like, I said when Donald Trump was elected, okay, America, welcome to Mississippi, because you're in it now. This is us.
Yeah.
You're about to get what we got.
Yeah.
So the very fact that Lumumba was able to not only win, but win in a landslide in our current country's political climate, where Mississippians are just like, man, if they could lick Trump's little orange beehole, they would. That's amazing. And nothing wrong with licking beeholes. But Trump, however, that's the important part there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's amazing. It's amazing. It's a victory. If you can't tell, I'm all excited. Like I am. I do not live in Jackson. I live in North Mississippi right now, and still, I'm just like, yes, like this is what Mississippi needs. Like this is a victory. Hopefully, it's going to start some movement with other people, get some more like-minded individuals in office, and maybe get this state turned around in a better direction. I mean, because it makes no sense for a state that's nearly the majority black to still be in the situation it is, and for black people to still be so marginalized when they're damn near the majority.
Yeah. To see a unapologetically actively pro-black progressive candidate elected in Jackson, Mississippi is a huge fucking win.
I mean, the black power fist on my chest glowed when it happened.
Like you knew before they even announced the election results.
The spirit of the spirit of Malcolm X rose from the grave and flew over Mississippi for a second. It was amazing. I mean, I'm not religious, but it's probably the closest thing I've had to a religious experience in a while. It was awesome. I cheered. I cheered for a city that I do not live in. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Oh my goodness! Sorry, I went there. I talked the whole time on that one.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point, I think.
Yeah, I was excited. I'm still excited.
It's exciting.
Lumumba, you have our support. The country has your support. Well, I'm speaking for certain people in the country, but country has your support. Like, we're giving you our support.
You have the country's support.
Yeah, you are like a black Captain Planet right now.
I feel like I should have a fancy ring on.
Yeah.
Wait, I have a thing for that.
Oh, there's a ring. And it's heart.
I think that makes me a small Indian child?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
The most useless of the Captain Planet powers.
Shush.
It's true.
Oh, shush. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
I see that.
On to yours, then.
On to mine. So, like Keem said at the top of the episode, I'm keeping it topical with LGBT themed, pride themed news. And there was a whole bunch this week that I had to comb through. It seems, most of the major metropolitan areas who participate in Pride in June had parades and events that happened this week. And there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened. It is I'm jealous right now because Memphis does not celebrate Pride in June for reasons. I'm not 100% sure why. We always do it in September.
September.
Yeah.
Very odd.
I
mean,
know.
Oxford had it in April. So, wait, that was May. Never mind.
It was May.
It was somewhere in the spring.
Yeah, but it wasn't that long ago. Like,
Yeah.
it was close-ish. But no, like, in Memphis, our Pride parade and celebration and all that happens in September, which we will be promoting, so keep your ear to the ground. So I'm jealous. Like, I want to, like, get dressed up in rainbow stuff and go, like, hang out with some people. But I can't. Or, I mean, I could. I could go down to the bar, whatever. So I've been watching, the point is I've been watching news from all these parades and seeing what's been happening in the country, not just in the United States, but in Canada, too. There's been a whole bunch of stuff that's been happening. But the thing that I wanted to focus on today, getting around to the actual point, is that for the first time ever, a major city, has officially hung a pride flag that has a brown and a black stripe added to the pride flag at the top of the flag. And this has been a small movement that's been building among small LGBT groups, specifically like groups dedicated to people of color. And it's to acknowledge the work that people of color do in advancing this, in advancing like rights and advancing all of this for the LGBT community, while still being largely ignored by both the Black community and the LGBT community.
Right.
And so adding these two stripes to the flag has been a small, like, grassroots movement in a lot of small LGBT groups, but adding it for a major metropolitan city of Philadelphia, to add this to the official flag that was hung, like, for the official city's Pride events, that's a huge step forward in acknowledging how so much of the work of advancing rights for LGBT people comes on the backs of the people of color who are LGBT. Right. It's gotten to a point where, like, pride becomes this, like, celebration, right? Like, you go out and you celebrate and you, like, go out and be gay out in public. But that erases the fact that Pride was originally conceived of as a riot for people whose rights were being violated. And we're going to be discussing more about this in a couple of weeks when we talk about the history of Pride and why Pride exists. But the point is that Pride was not originally a celebration of who you are. It was originally a protest and a demand for civil rights.
Right.
And that was originated by people of color, right? By trans people of color. And so much of what people promote as Pride is very, very whitewashed and erases this history of rebellion, this history of struggle for rights, this history of protest, and turns it into a very, very white, sometimes explicitly white, like, celebration, to the point where like, queer and trans people of color feel excluded from mainstream Pride celebrations because it's so very whitewashed and erases the fact that people of color are still incredibly disproportionately affected by violence against the LGBTQ community. Right. Most of the violence, the majority of the violence that's done to LGBTQ people is done to people of color.
Isn't it like currently, like, out of the trans women have been killed, 12 out of 13 were women of color?
Yes. And that holds true. Like, trans women of color are the group of people that is most likely to be affected by targeted violence in the country. Right? That is just true. But at the hands of the authorities, at the hands of civilians, everybody.
Right.
But across like all demographics within the LGBTQ community, for any kind of targeted violence, people of color are disproportionately targeted by violence.
It's kind of as if the statistics kind of mirror the statistics in like society in general.
Yes.
And like I said, the brown and black stripes are addressing that issue, and with the pride celebrations being like very, very white.
Yes.
Because that has been putting the black community and like pro-black movements unfortunately has been putting them in opposition of pride movements,
yes.
LGBTQ movements, because they're seen as basically just the extension of the regular racist things you see in straight white society, you know, and it causes a lot of black activists and pro-black people to, you know, not be allies with the LGBTQ community, which makes it even worse for people of color who are in that community, because they are basically almost given the choice of you either be black or be gay or lesbian or bi or trans.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be a choice. Like that, you shouldn't have to choose your identity in that way. You shouldn't have to choose to be one or the other.
Yeah.
So, like, applause to Philly.
Yeah. My only concern with this is that this is a very like symbolic kind of action, where it could easily turn into we did this thing, and so that means that we don't have a problem anymore.
We don't have to acknowledge it now.
No, that's not actually how that works. And this is just one way that a city is addressing a problem that is like a huge problem throughout the LGBTQ community, of this racism, this erasure of people of color, and not acknowledging the work that people of color have done. And this is being addressed, we're going to talk about this also in a couple of weeks. This is being addressed in other more active ways in other places. I know Montreal had one where the Black Lives Matter movement was working to disrupt the Montreal's Pride celebration. There was one that happened in D.C. Called No Justice, No Pride, where a group of LGBTQ people of color got together and formed a group to disrupt DC's Pride Parade, with the intention of with the purpose of drawing attention to the fact that people of color are largely erased and excluded from mainstream Pride celebrations. So there's lots of different. This is a huge problem that is being that is happening throughout the U.S. and Canada, through all of these Pride celebrations, that needs to be addressed in some way. Mm-hmm. And I really like that Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, put into place something that visibly acknowledges that this is a problem and visibly acknowledges the work that people of color have done for the advancement of the rights of LGBTQ people.
I like how it's Philly. The spirit, the city of brotherly love.
Yes, exactly.
Stepping up right there. And like Philly, don't let it just be a, symbol. Like, go ahead and step up, Philly.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're going to be talking more about this in a couple of weeks when we talk about the history of Pride, where Pride comes from, and where it's what path it has taken to become what it is now. We're going to be talking a little bit about that in a couple of weeks. But yeah, so that was my thing that I was excited about this week.
I like how your news even touched on our topic for this week, because it's talking about and some a form of erasure.
Yes.
And our topic for the week is bi-erasure. So yeah, look at that. We got some segue there.
Yay! Segue.
Yeah.
I'm good at segues. I don't know if
You're all good at segues. Haven't seen you on a Segway, but
I would probably not be very good at that. I'm not very coordinated.
it's okay. Segways aren't cool.
Have you met me?
Yeah, it'll work for you though. What I'm saying. So as we get ready to go into our topic and our special guest, we are inviting back a show favorite.
Yay!
They provided for us our theme song, and
I've got Keem singing now, too.
yeah, I sang that for some reason. They provided for us our theme song. They provided our music for our reboot, and we are inviting them back again this week in preparation for having one of the members.
That's right.
Next week.
Yes. Chris from the Living Room Leftists will be on the show next week.
That's right. So we are giving them a little prep this week just to get you hyped for Chris's introduction to the world of podcasting next week. So we are giving you our musical guest for the week. They're our musical guests every week, kind of.
If you think about it, because they gave us our theme song.
They let us know the things that matter.
Yes. The 4 things.
The 4 things. So
every week.
We are going to move on to the Living Room Leftists with our song for the week.
It's called Things Our Parents Made. It's off their album. Go to their Bandcamp and buy it because it's a great album. I'll give you the link. Here's Things Our Parents Made.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't live in a post-industrial town, but I read about one once in a magazine. I was on a plane, then it came to me. Oh, it gave me an idea. What do you think? Why don't we tear up all the manhole covers, send them off to China? If the steel mill, she don't work no more, strip all of the wires out and we'll take them to the scrapyard and we'll make a couple dollars. Sell off the things our parents made, and we'll get by for one more day. Well, my love, I live in a terrible town. It's not actually that bad, but it's far away. It's too far from my friends, and it's too far from my mom. Oh, but I got an idea. What do you say? Why don't we tear up all the manhole covers, send them off to China? If the steel mill, she don't work no more, strip all of the wires out and we'll take them to the scrapyard. Make a couple dollars, we'll sell off the things my parents made that we could buy. A ticket on a plane for you to come on down to Memphis, spend a day or 2 at my house, and we'll head back to Toronto and start ripping up the streetcar tracks and take 1 million people up. Vic Park to Spadina, we'll sell off the things my parents made and we'll get by. I said we'll get by. Oh, we'll get by for one more day.
Welcome back to our topic segment for today, for this week, because I still can't talk from last week. As you know, we've stated many times that we're celebrating Pride Month, and Esmeralda just did a thing, and it was hilarious. And too bad this isn't a video podcast. But we are celebrating Pride Month, and our topic for today is actually bi-erasure. And I'd like to welcome a very special guest, Morgan.
Hey, I'm Morgan. I co-host the Bi Skeptical podcast and Beyond the Trailer Park. So obviously, I don't know about these bisexual erasure issues.
I wanted to let her introduce herself because I'm terrible at it. And I still can't talk today, so.
That's okay, Keem. You're going to get used to not talking in this episode.
Yeah, so, like I said, Morgan's more famous than we are, so hopefully she'll bring some listeners in who will enjoy this more. But as I stated earlier, we're talking about bi-erasure, a topic that I am going to sit out on mostly because I am, in this case, woefully straight. So can't really comment on a few things. So I'm going to kind of let these people have it. And I'm going to ask a few questions because, straight guy want to know type of thing. Go ahead.
All right. So like Keem said, he's going to be sitting out because he is the straight person in the room. And it is not cool for straight people to talk over bi people when bi people are talking about their experiences. So Morgan, what is bi-erasure for the listeners at home?
So bi-erasure is when bisexual people are excluded either from the mainstream, which would be more heteronormative society, but also from LGBTQ spaces as well. So we're not represented in the media as well as we should be, or as well as other groups. We aren't as welcome at Pride events or LGBTQ spaces, but straight people aren't as welcoming either. So we kind of are rendered invisible or stereotyped first.
Right. I described it to somebody a while back. I might have described it to Keem very, very shortly after we started dating, my frustration in this, because I am somehow simultaneously like fetishized and told that I don't exist. Right? Like I'm erased and fetishized at the same time.
Yeah, that's what it is. But then also it's, I had a conversation about not too long ago, and a straight person was saying, oh yeah, like I was having a conversation with a lesbian, and they were talking about how she hated bisexual people because we have quote unquote straight passing privilege and all these other things. And they also said bisexual women are more accepted than bisexual men, but really, I mean, are they? Because we're expected to perform our sexuality to the standards of what straight men want to see. So
I will say, like, I don't like the experiences of bisexual, like, femme people and bisexual masculine people are very different, and it's hard to compare them, but they are very, very different. Like, bi femme people are not met with the same with the same level of like actual like physical violence that bi men are. Right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because of like the perceived, possibly is my theory, because of like the perceived like that by a man being interested in having sex with men is like stepping outside of like what's acceptable in a way that a woman having sex with women isn't.
Yeah, and that way it is, but it's still expected to conform to, straight men. They think, oh, it's hot. Oh, I like bisexual women, and they expect us to be down for a threesome, all this kind of thing. And it's like, no, I'm not interested in fixing your broken marriage. So
Yeah, right.
It's complicated with that. And the assumption is always that I noticed that with bi women, we are told that we are faking it, right? And we're secretly straight.
Yes.
With bi men, they're told that they're secretly gay. Both assumptions assume we like men.
Yeah, right?
Wonder why that is.
Question for the ages over here. Question for the ages.
I've heard this somewhere before.
It went around on Facebook. I posted it on Facebook like a month ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but it's very true. I mean, both assume that, we secretly like men and we're just, making up this bisexual thing to cover it. Or I've heard things such as, we're just naturally promiscuous, or we're greedy and can't decide, or we can never be happy with a particular partner because, needs won't be met, things like that, which I myself am like, pretty monogamous. So it's weird that, these people keep telling, my boyfriend, oh, well, she's going to leave you for a woman. And it's like, that's not how that works. I don't have a little chart where I'm keeping track and I'm like, oh, I slept with a man this week. Oh, got to make sure I sleep with a woman next week. And, and if I don't follow that platform, then obviously I'm not a real bisexual according to these people.
Right. And that's one thing that I run into with regards, even like, especially in the queer community, right? Is like being quote unquote, like queer enough to be part of the community. I'm sure that you saw another meme that was going around Facebook that said something about, I don't understand why all these bisexuals want to be up in LGBT spaces.
Yes, and they were like, "What the hell do you think the B stands for?" Like, I mean,
like, thanks, God.
Sandwich. Like, what's wrong with you? They're like, it's like the B is invisible, and the G is like ginormous. And I mean, trans people have the same issue with the queer community, really. And I have a theory about this. I actually wrote a paper on this for my international law and gender class over at Cambridge in England, but I think it's because the fluidity of sexuality freaks people out because we're stuck in this gender binary, right? Where it's male or female. You're either gay or you're straight. There is no in between. And so I think with bisexual people and transgender people, we challenge these notions, right? So you can transition, or you can prefer male, female, non-binary, all together. And that freaks people out because it challenges their black or white notions, or this or that, that binary. And so I think even in the LGBTQ community, they're not so quote unquote woke as they think they are, because they're still instilling this very rigid gender binary on people. I mean, you see the things with women who are with other women. It's like one's supposed to be more manly than the other. And, one's really supposed to be the quote unquote dude in the relationship. So even in the LGBTQ community, they're not as free from a gender binary as, some like to think or say they are.
Yeah. And I think that it's telling that all of the like LGBT rights, like pushes that have been made in the last few years have been really like based on like gay and lesbian people being like, no, look, guys, we can be normal too. Like, we're just like you. We want to get married. We want to raise families. We want to do all these normal, quote unquote, normal things. Just like the straight people. And so anybody who steps outside of that is challenging to this platform that they're trying to achieve rights based on, right? Like,
I think that was purposeful almost, because
it absolutely was. That was an incredibly savvy political choice.
Have to, they moved forward, but in that process of them gaining, these rights and things like that, they left the more vulnerable communities behind. As we see with other social movements like feminism, leaving women of color or sex workers behind. We see that in a lot of social movements, really. I mean, even today. And now, who are they going after the hardest? The Christian right is smacking down on trans people because they didn't come forward along with the rest of the queer community. Yeah. And bi people, we still have all these stereotypes that we have to overcome, even though we are the largest segment of the LGBTQ community.
Yes, by far.
Yeah, we definitely are. But it's a problem with, we don't come out as much. And I think it is because of these stereotypes, or people do want to. I can understand sort of that straight privilege argument, because if I'm holding hands with my boyfriend, no one will think twice about it. Right. People will assume I'm straight. But in the process, that's also erasing my own identity as a queer woman. Exactly. At the same time. So it's complicated, but then no one is likely going to go and beat me up and call me, a dyke. If I'm holding hands with my boyfriend, I'd be like, well, that was very strange of you. Yeah. But so I can kind of see that. So it's a complicated identity. And I think that complicated identity is just, I think we need to talk more about how our identities interact with social context as well. And also how they're more complicated than, being gay or straight or being trans or cis or, whatever. We just need to discuss these complexities and tackle these issues and move forward together as an LGBTQ community, like the acronym freaking says, rather than saying, oh no, we're going to get our rights and we'll come back to you later and work on your representation in the media and, all your issues you have, because And, bisexual people do get left out in these conversations. They talk about housing discrimination and things like that. I mean, right now, if
domestic violence
found out that I was bi, he could kick us out. Like, people don't talk about that, like how bisexual people are at risk as well.
Well, and have you seen, and now I'm forgetting all the numbers, right? But like when you even look at the breakdown within the LGBTQ community, like bisexual identified people are at the highest risk for domestic partner violence, are at the highest risk for mental health problems, are at the highest risk for physical health problems, because they're not able to talk openly with their health providers. They're not able to talk openly with their support systems. They're not able to seek out the resources that even like gay and lesbian people are, because of various like levels of stigma that happen.
Yeah, and it's because we're excluded like from both communities. Like I was talking about earlier, the heteronormative mainstream, once they find out we're queer bisexual, they're like, oh no, that's that's not you're not one of us. But then the gay and lesbian resources that maybe exist out there, they also aren't really down with us either. And so we're kind of left without a community. And I think that affects people who are coming out or realizing that they're bisexual. And I think that leads to mental health problems, that leads to suicide attempts, that leads to, all these domestic violence issues, because you can't reach out. There's nowhere to go.
I would actually like to add something here, because this is getting something that I was thinking about that I brought up the other day. Do either of you happen to have heard the term of someone, a brother being on a down low?
You know that I have, because we had this conversation the other day.
I'm doing it for podcasting purposes.
Yes. Yes.
But it's in the Black community, because this is where I come from. If you haven't guessed, I'm a Negro. Yeah, I'm bringing it back.
Reclaimed language.
Yeah. In the Black community, that's the term for a bisexual man who has a visible female partner. He sleeps around with other men on the quote unquote down low. And in the Black community, being a down low brother, as they say, is honestly probably one of the biggest insults or charges you can levy against against a man, against a guy. They're seen as dangerous. Actually, they're seen as one of the major causes of the AIDS epidemic.
Yes.
Dangerous and homewreckers and all that horrible stuff.
Are they considered effeminate as well?
That kind of goes back and forth, because usually down low brothers are the more masculine type. They're the ones that are going to like appear masculine and then go out and do the feminine thing of sleeping with a man, or go and find a effeminate man to, sleep with.
Yeah, and I think that also goes against the whole, that goes to show with the bisexual men, what they struggle with is because it's the scene of like, you're effeminate, which is, the greatest insult that can be levied against a man is being, effeminate. And then for women, the worst thing we can be is sluts and whores. So that stereotype is often levied against us, or women who are seeking attention, or, et cetera, as the term I'm sure you've all heard is barsexual, right? You get drunk and you make out with a girl for, whatever.
I had never heard that term.
Reality changes and you become a lesbian after you drink some cocktails.
Or
crazy.
after you listen to heavy metal music for the first time.
Oh God, that movie was horrible. Please don't talk about that. But I noticed even in that movie, these lesbian or bisexual characters are often in movies. So for media representation we do get, it's often like set decoration, right? So it'll be, Fast and Furious. They're all, racing cars, and there's some hot chicks kissing in the background, and that's all you see about bisexual people. And or also in movies, I'll notice a character will say, I've dated a man before and now has a crush on a woman. And then somebody will say, so what? Like, you're a lesbian or you're gay now? And they'll be like, I don't like labels.
Oh.
And I'm just like, really? That is so cliche. Like, it has been said 1,000 times in all these different movies and TV shows, yet no one will say the word bisexual or queer even. I can't even get that. Like, Orange is the New Black has like the worst offender. Like, I couldn't even watch the new season because it's like they wouldn't address it at all. They wouldn't even say the word bisexual, but they'll, they're so socially aware.
Yeah.
This is on a less serious note. The very first porn I ever saw, literally there was a line, there was a woman on that, they were shipwrecked on this island and everybody was fucking because it's porn. And she was only having sex with like the other women on the island. And it gets to the end of the movie and like everybody else is like going feral. And it was just like her and this other like nerdy guy. And she like kisses him and he goes, I thought you only liked women. And she goes, I could guy sometimes. And then they go into this scene. And that's like Morgan that's what they reminded me of. Just like, what?
Yeah, like there's no label for it because that's part of the erasure, right? You don't put a name to it. And, people can, that's fine, I guess, if people individually want to say, I don't like labels, whatever, but I think that labels do help because it makes you feel like you're not alone. And
I have had this labels argument so many times with so many people. It's really
me included, actually.
Yeah, you included, right? It's really incredibly like if you claim not to like labels, you're showing your privilege because it means that you have never needed to use a label to describe your experience in such a way as to find a community that is safe for you to be part of.
And that's partly why it took me so long to admit to people that I was bisexual because I went to the same crazy ass school where Keem went to, and I wasn't allowed to listen to secular music or anything. So I didn't know that there was like bisexual people in the world. I just, thought that I was, some weirdo. And then I would justify it to myself by being like, oh, well, maybe I just think girls are pretty from an objective standpoint, like, no, that's not what that is, sweetheart. But, I kept telling myself that. And that's how I got through high school and college to an extent. But then I've also ran into people, even coming out now, they'll be like, oh, well, when was the last time you were with a woman? So you're a former bisexual. And I'm like, no, that's not how that works. What's wrong with you? It's frustrating. But yeah, I feel like if there was more media representation where people actually said the word bisexual, maybe kids watching that would be like, oh my God, I'm not alone in this world. And there's someone who's just like me. Yes. And maybe I don't have to be depressed and be alone. And I have like at least a label that I can hold on to.
Yes. So speaking of the importance of labels and inclusion, AutoStraw, of course. Morgan, Keem doesn't know AutoStraw. Keem has no reason to know AutoStraw.
AutoStraw.
So AutoStraw is like a media website for queer women and femme people, which is amazing. But I was so stoked. Like last year sometime, I was browsing around and stumbled on like a forum, like open thread conversation specifically for bi and pansexual women in relationships with men.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm
like, this is amazing. I'm being explicitly included. Me as a woman who's in relationships right now. So I'm polyamorous. I'm currently in relationships with 3 dudes. Like talk about having to battle my own, like internalized, stuff about bisexuality. But as a woman at that time, I was in relationships with 4 men, I am being explicitly included in a queer space. And it made me so fucking happy.
Yeah. And it's getting better. I've noticed because I was happy to see, on that Tumblr meme you mentioned about if you're bi and you're in your relationship with, someone of the opposite sex, then don't bother coming to Pride, things like that. And the comments immediately were like, what the hell do you think the B stands for? And I was happy to see that people are standing up and saying, no, the B is there. Like, shut up and sit down and listen to people.
I thought the B stood for Babadook.
Oh my. Yeah, they'd rather replace us with Babadook rather than admit that bisexual people are in the community. Like, Babadook is now the queer hero of our time.
Oh, Jesus. I've seen that, and I'm like, no, guys, no. But then, even when you go, so one of the reasons that I'm very hesitant to go to, like, Pride and stuff is because even though they explicitly say, yes, bisexual people are welcome, well, if I show up with the, like, 2 of my 3 dudes who are within driving distance, I'm not going to be seen as a bisexual person. I'm going to be seen as a straight person. Like, because bisexuality, like, part of the reason that it's erased is because it's not immediately visible. Like, if you're walking around with a partner, like, who you are and what your identity is.
Yeah, and it gets erased either way, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm holding hands with a woman, then, everybody assumes I'm a lesbian. But then if I'm holding hands with a man, it's assumed that I'm straight. So either way, my identity gets erased. So
I just paint my face with the bisexual flag, and then everybody knows.
Yeah, I was happy to see the Oxford Pride. I felt like was very inclusive of bi and pan people, and I saw
awesome.
a lot of bi and pan people there with like bi and pan stuff. But yeah, it was, so that's encouraging. I do feel like it's getting better, but I think that we still do have a long way to go. And again, we have to make sure that the entire community comes forward on these issues instead of just, certain people with more privilege leading the march forward and then leaving everybody else behind.
Yeah, exactly. So I will say, Keem, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You first.
Okay. So I will say one of the things that I've been struggling with lately with regards to being out as a bisexual person has to do, so I work in a workplace where it would, like, maybe it would be okay for me to be out as bisexual, but I'm still very hesitant to do that because of the perception that me coming out as bisexual. So, like, if you're straight, everybody assumes that you're straight. That's not a problem. And if you're gay or lesbian, you can say, oh, well, I'm gay or I'm lesbian. And then you are fit into that now, like, homonormative box, right? Like, you're just like everybody else. You have relationships. You want to, like, do this and you want to do that. And you just want to be normal like everybody else. But I am struggling with coming out as bisexual has more of an explicit, like, it reminds people of me having sex more than coming out as gay or lesbian would, right? Like, suddenly people are picturing me having sex with people of like, quote unquote, both genders. And that's a thing that wouldn't be okay in my job. Like, that's not okay. And so I'm really hesitant to be out.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. And I mean, I work remote, so I mean, and I think that people, I mean, I worked at the athletic department here at Ole Miss, and I think somebody once referred to me as a redheaded lesbian, and I was like, half correct. But so they just assumed, even though I was, dating a man at the time, I guess my appearance, but it's complicated because bisexual, especially when I talk about the representation, like, we don't have representations in the media as much of people that are just, trying to be like everybody else or even like doing something different from everybody else, right? Yeah. Instead, everybody thinks bisexual and they think porn.
Exactly.
So honestly, automatically these explicit images pop in their heads of like us involved in these orgies, and then they're just like, ugh, like, don't want anything to do with you. So yeah, it is a struggle. And speaking of that, even on the Christian right, they are kind of like this. So I was listening to an episode, I think it was Cognitive Dissonance, and they're talking about Pat Robertson, or one of these like old ass like Christian people, and he was talking about LGBTQ and the acronym and stuff. He goes, and you know what the B is? And he goes, orgies. And I was just like, what? That is not correct. Like, even the Christians won't even acknowledge we exist, and they hate us.
They also don't know how letters work.
I know, right? Like, hate to break it to you guys, like, the first letter of orgies is not B.
I don't know. Maybe he was thinking, maybe he did know bisexual people exist, but again, it goes back to that whole like, oh, well, those are people obviously that participate in orgies, not people who are just,
Right. We're just oversexed sluts.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's
greedy.
what I mean. That's the perception on both sides, and I was like,
we're oversexed, we're greedy, we're heartless, and we're gonna leave you for somebody with a different gender.
So I gotta apologize. I'll apologize on air, because one of the things I used to say all the time in my less informed days was, gay people and lesbians, they're fine. Those bisexuals, can't trust them. They're greedy bastards.
Yeah, that's the other one.
Yeah.
We're not. You can't trust us. We're deceitful.
Yeah, deceitful. And because you go to the club.
Keem, am I deceitful?
Yeah, you go to the club.
I'm deceitful, but that's nothing to do with my bisexuality.
Yeah, and I'm a slut. But it has nothing to do with my
bisexuality.
bisexuality. Well, it has a little to do with my bisexuality, but you can't generalize based on me.
I think that idea comes from the fact that our identity isn't visible, so it's like you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, right.
So I think that has, on a deeper level, some sort of thought there. But yeah, it's just the idea that I don't understand how you can be. Again, it goes back to even women I know who've been married for, say, to like a partner monogamous, for say like 15 years, they still identify as bisexual.
Yeah.
Not changed, but people say, oh, you used to be a lesbian or you used to be bi or something like that. And it's just, you're not being visible now, but you were back in the day, or, the stereotype of, oh, you experimented back in college. That doesn't mean you're bisexual, whatever. And it's, so we get erased, but then at the same time we get demonized.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Arts to self-identification, like public identification. So while I was doing research...
No. There's a difference between self-identification and public identification.
That's
right?
why I changed it.
So we're talking about public, like coming out and being publicly identifying yourself as something. Okay.
So while I was doing, like I said in the beginning, I couldn't input too much in this conversation. So I decided to do a little research. And one of the things that I was researching was people who, like famous people or historical figures who were bisexual, but it wasn't widely known, or isn't widely known. And I came across one very interesting name. It was Malcolm X. And it's been stated Malcolm X had relationships with both men and women before he married his wife. He was also a sex worker at one point with men and women. So, I mean, yeah. But as I was doing this research, I saw that there was a debate going on within the, let's say, woke Black community, whether or not, and the LGBTQ community in that community, in the Black woke, like, talk of things is very interesting anyway, because you got the hoteps who don't want to see them at all, because any kind of homosexuality is the white man trying to destroy the Black community.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. But there's a question on whether we Black people as a community should consider Malcolm X to be bisexual, knowing the history behind it, even though publicly he identified as heterosexual with his wife.
So he was never out at any time.
He was never out at any time.
This is just stuff people found out later.
Yes, stuff people found out later. And considering his being in the nation and then converting to Islam later, it's logical that that's not something you would want out, especially in your very public role in the 1950s and 60s.
Yeah.
I think that's a really complicated issue. I can see where, you don't want to out anybody, obviously,
Right.
but then at the same time, they're not here anymore, and maybe things would have been different if they were around still today.
Right.
So, it's a complicated issue.
And see, as a historian myself, of course, I think that all aspects of history are important to
Yes.
be known, and for bisexual Black people, especially bisexual Black men, seeing a person that is considered a major role model to the Black community as a bisexual person, that is a major like boost. However, like I said, it wasn't public. It wasn't something he could even come out with at the time. Mm-hmm. So it caused me to even look into this more and try to figure that out. And like I said, I don't know. This is why I asked you guys. I can only come with it from a Black guy perspective.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what do you think? Because it's difficult because I also have a historian background and a legal, background. But so I am very much a fan of all the facts being presented. But at the same time, I am also wanting to be more empathetic in respecting people's wishes. Right. So.
And see, here's the thing, though, is I think that you can state the facts of the situation without assigning a label to somebody that they didn't choose for themselves. Right?
Okay.
I have a really, really strong aversion to applying labels to other people against their will, right? Because that's where you get arguments against pansexuality, right? You're not pan, you're just bi and you want to feel special, right? Or you're not genderqueer, you just are whatever, right? So assigning labels to people without their permission gets really, really tricky. But you don't have to erase the fact that he had relationships with men and with women, right? You can state the facts of his relationship without assigning a label to him, even though it would be really great for bisexual representation to be able to say, oh, Malcolm X was bisexual, but you can say, well, Malcolm X had relationships with women and with men without assigning him the label of bisexual.
Okay, I think that's a good approach, and that makes sense to say that about people, because you don't know necessarily how they would self-identify or how they would be want to be perceived by communities at large.
Yeah,
especially after death. That's a really complicated issue, and I think that just you can state the facts about somebody. Because I want, like I said, I'm a fan of having all the facts come to light. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you can state all that without necessarily being oh, this means that.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, this is gonna start some fights outside of this podcast. So
Good.
Bring it on.
Let's start some fights. Let's fight some hoteps.
Let's fight the hoteps. But and that speaks to something that back again with bisexuals and erasure. I've seen within the hoteps and stuff. Once again, the bisexuals are, because bisexual women, however, are fine because Black women are still, in most cases, goddesses.
But they hate women.
Yeah, goddesses know their place below gods. But I digress.
But I would suspect that female bisexuality in the hotep groups is still subject to the male gaze, right?
Yes, very much so.
Women, it's okay for women to be bisexual because the men think that that's hot.
Yes. But as long as you're performing it for us and our own needs and not your own.
Exactly.
That's what queens do for kings.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's a problem with the larger culture as well as in the hotep. But I think with the hoteps, assign the labels like goddesses and
well, any subculture or the main culture where gender roles and like, yeah, where gender roles are like strictly stratified, right, is going to have that, right, where men are on top, and then everything that women do is to benefit men in some way. So it's okay for women to want to have sex with each other because men think that's hot. So it's okay.
This world where bisexuals are always having threesomes for men and stuff. As a man who's dated plenty of bisexual women, as a matter of fact, every woman I've ever dated was bisexual except for one. Threesomes never happened.
I mean, the problem, Keem, is that you're too picky about the threesomes that you have.
I plead the fifth. Right.
That's the problem, right? Like, I've got a thing lined up for this. You just have to be less picky about the gender of the third person involved.
No.
I can cut this out of the podcast if you want.
Yeah, but that's also what the typical threesome is, right? It's 2 women, 1 man.
I know,
Yep.
except the ones that I arrange always have 2 men. So, like, Keem just needs to be less picky because I could make that happen pretty easily.
You know how I feel.
I do know how you feel about men.
Yep. I'm a feminazi. I hate men.
You hate men.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
man.
you don't hate men. You just don't have any sexual interest in men, and that's totally valid.
True. That's totally valid.
I would invite you to investigate why you don't have any sexual interest in men, but that's totally still a legitimate thing.
We've investigated.
As long as you're not assuming that based on your disgust for homosexuality.
No, I just don't like dicks. I don't even like my own.
That's a shame.
Just look at it and get angry. Like a sad old man.
Angry reacts only.
This took a weird turn.
This will take a weird turn.
Welcome to having a conversation with me.
Hey, this podcast is all about weird turns.
Yes.
More weird turns. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think if I have another question. Great minds want to know.
Yes.
I got nothing.
You got nothing?
I got nothing.
Ooh, hey, here's a debate that popped up on my Facebook feed the other day. Bisexuality and pansexuality. What the heck is the difference?
Yeah, it's just usually I let people identify with what they want to identify as. So I'm not going to sit there and tell somebody who's pan, no, you're really bi, or somebody who identifies as bi as, no, you're really pan. So I don't know. I just kind of like you said, not assigning labels to anybody. I kind of follow that sort of path.
So what I thought the difference was, and just from like reading, I don't know. I thought the difference was bisexual people like were attracted like to men, women assigned. Like
So like no trans?
no trans.
No, that's not what it is at all.
See,
That was a definition that was used for a really long time, but as like trans people become more and more like accepted, and as non-binary gender identifications become more and more mainstream, like that definition got thrown out a few years ago. Like, we don't use that anymore because it's
because I'm super into the whole non-binary vibe there. So it's,
like that definition of bisexuality sucks. Bisexuality, the term, like the way that it's most commonly used now, right? Like it does still right there in the word, like imply a binary, but the binary that's most commonly accepted is like same versus different, right? So bisexuality, you're attracted to people that have the same gender as you and that have one or more different gender identities, right? That's the thing. And I will say this as a person, like, so politically, like, for political reasons, I identify myself as bisexual. But, like, probably it would be accurate to call, like, for me to describe myself as pansexual, whatever, like, that's fine. Either way. But pansexual, I've heard most commonly used to describe, like, being attracted to somebody despite their gender, right? Like, with bisexuality, like, gender is still, like, an element of your attraction to that person. But pansexuality is attraction where gender is not really considered, right?
Yes,
For
that's what
whatever other aspects you find attractive about somebody, gender is not the thing that you're considering when your attraction to that person. Or to every person that you are attracted to. So,
Education.
what was that, Keem?
I said that was an education. I'm learning something.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, this came up in a, like, from a person on my main Facebook page who is, like, ordinarily well educated. Like, she's a sexuality educator. She is, like, has conversations. She's an extremely progressive person, but had this confusion about what's the difference between bi and pan. Because pansexuality especially is a pretty new term that's kind of, like, we're at a really interesting place, like, language-wise, with gender and orientation and sexuality, and people are constantly inventing new words to describe, like, to find the best way to describe their experiences, these, like, really, really complex, like, interconnected experiences. And it's really, really cool, but it leads to some confusion in ordinarily otherwise really well-educated people, because these new words are cropping up all the time and are not really well defined in most places. So,
and I actually think that leads, and back to the topic of bi-erasure, I think that leads back into erasure happening more, because people, with the confusion, as the talks on sexuality have evolved and continue to evolve over the years, the confusion leads people to going, okay, well, we know what this is and we know what this is. So just stick to those.
Yeah.
Because those are accepted now. Those are what we know. So you're either this or that. Anybody else, no, just pick.
That lovely binary creeps up again.
Yay.
But yeah, I know, yay. But yeah, and it also leads to, I think, people saying, oh, all these words are made up. And I'm like, yes, every word is made up.
Yes, literally every word is made up.
What a lovely insight you just had here. But of course, they're using that to try to detract from people's identities and to say, oh, it's made up, so I don't have to respect either your pronouns or your label or, your identity as a person even.
Yeah.
Because they think that you're just literally just making up, fancy new sociology terms when that's literally how that works.
Yes.
I actually saw a young lady earlier who I'm friends with on Facebook post something saying how trans people and bisexual people are trying to destroy lesbians.
Oh my God.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah.
One of those people.
And
that sounds like a turf to me, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, super turf.
And this young lady just really recently began identifying as lesbian. When I first met her, she was identifying as straight. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's again, like I was talking about, a lot of lesbians, I guess they feel sort of, and this is not the case, certainly, hashtag not all lesbians, but, I have experienced some of them saying, things like, oh, well, you have that straight privilege and sort of that resentment with that. Again, because it's the fact that I can hold hands with my partner and not be screamed at and called a dyke. But then it's like, yeah, but I'm also having my identity erased again, either way. If I'm holding hands with a woman, I get called a lesbian, and that's not what I am. And so it's like, yes, I don't get that direct visibility, that visibility that causes me to be necessarily in more danger. But being erased is also not good. Like, can we agree that these are not good? And like, you know,
Yeah.
instead of having an oppression Olympics competition, like I don't
Yeah. And
like
here's
it's not all around.
yeah.
It's very much to me, once again, coming from like my experiences, it's very much the experience of being biracial or light skinned. Because we get sort of like, well, I'm not biracial, but I'm very light skinned. If anyone can see me, yeah. I hear the argument like very similar arguments, like you have your light skin privilege, yeah, but or you're sorry, but yeah, y'all get what I'm saying. Like it's very very similar to. So I'm getting the empathetic sense from it.
Yeah, it's a similar way that like hierarchy of privilege within a marginalized community, right?
Right.
Yes.
But yeah, like I was gonna say though, with the lesbian who recently came out as lesbian, like it's natural when you first find a community that you're like, yes, this is me and this is my people and this is the label. It's natural to get really, really enthusiastic about that. And that can lead you to paint things with a really broad brush. So like I can understand, it's not surprising at all to me that this person is like, lesbianism is great and everybody is damaging the cause of advancing equality for lesbians. Like that makes sense to me. But at the same time, like I feel like all of us need to sit back and look and realize that advancing the place in society for all of us, for like it's gonna bring all of us up, right?
Some kind of intersectionality.
Oh my gosh, what? But no, like raising the floor for the lowest within the hierarchy of this in the sub community. Like raising the floor will lift everybody up, right? Like raising the floor so that trans people are not treated so badly is going to push everybody else up too. Like raising the floor so that bi people are identified and have representation is going to push everybody else up too, right? These things don't work by themselves. Every advancement for one group is advancement for everybody, or advancement for the lowest group, I should say, is advancement for everybody, right? It's totally possible to pull the people off the top and leave the people at the bottom behind. But if you lift up the people at the bottom, everybody else goes too.
Yeah, that's what I talk about in my paper also, how that works. And that's how we break through these different layers of, gender binary and heteronormativity. That, there's a layer that, exists in the heteronormative community. If you're a hetero straight man, you're expected to act a certain way, right? But then if you're a gay man, you're also expected to act a certain way. If you're a trans woman, you're supposed to appear as if you are, quote unquote, passing, right?
Yeah.
Even though and you're held sort of to a stricter gender expression than, cis women. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's these different layers. And, bisexual people are supposed to perform in a certain way as well, even though, oftentimes we do get erased. So, yeah, there's these layers of heteronormativity and the gender binary that we do have to break through. But with that, there come the layers that we do have to raise up as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Morgan. Before we let you go, is there anything you want to plug?
Oh yes, I'm always trying to plug things. You can take that how you will.
Bounce the wow.
You can find me on the Bi Skeptical podcast. It's on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher. I don't know anybody who uses Stitcher, but it's there. And I co-host Trav Mamone, and you can catch that about every other week. We'll have a new episode. Recently, our newest episode accidentally got deleted, so no episode this week, but there will be next week. Also, you can find me on Beyond the Trailer Park on YouTube. I'm live Monday at 8:30 Central. And you can also catch recording of that podcast on iTunes and Spreaker as well. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Mostring, MOSTRING. And you can friend me on Facebook, Morgan L. Stringer. Just send me a message that you know me from like the show, and I know that you're not some creepy like Russian cam girl bot. So yeah, so that's where you can find me.
Woo.
All right. Well, Morgan, it was great having you on. I hope you come back for another one because we need more spirited people on here. We've been having great guests, and you are awesome.
Oh, thank you. I definitely do want to come back. I have more things I can rant about for
Good.
days.
And I also want to give Morgan a shout out. She is like half the inspiration to even start doing this. She got me on a show once, and I was like, that was fucking fun.
Yep.
I asked, no religion required.
Yep.
Fun time.
All right. So with that, we are going to get another brief song from our musical guest for the week, and move on to Esmé's sex talk, where she'll be talking about barriers. Sexual barriers.
The good kind of sexual barriers, not the kind that prevents you from doing the things that you want. Come on back after the music, guys.
Close your eyes, lean back, remember the time it takes this long. That's true about lots of things. Things take time. Things take a while. You could count them if you want to. We could measure things with numbers or some arbitrary scale. Assign them colors, make a qualitative shift now.
Welcome back, and thanks again to the Living Room Leftists for being our musical guests again this week. That was a segment from a song called Nouns, which is probably my favorite, or at least it gives me all of the feelings. So many feelings with that song. Keem just gave me a weird look. But yeah, it's a great song, again, off their new album that came out a few weeks ago. You should go check it out. It's pretty great.
It is pretty great. I bought it.
That's saying something.
Yeah. I don't generally buy, like, I'm a Spotify guy. I'll pay my subscription. Haven't bought a CD in a while. I haven't downloaded an album in a while, and I bought it. So go buy it.
Go buy it.
Follow my example.
In any case, like we said, today we are talking about barriers. And so most people, when I say we're going to talk about barriers, they go, oh, you mean condoms? And I'm like, well, yeah, but also, right? Condoms are just one of the kinds of barriers that you can use to protect yourself, to have safer sex, and their barriers are good for so many things, you guys. So one of the main things that comes up with barriers, right, is that it is a form of protection, right? One of the main purposes of using a barrier during sex is to prevent the exchange of fluids that can lead to transmission of various kinds of diseases, right? Protect yourselves, guys. It's important to have safer sex. You want to protect your health. Use barriers. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Use barriers. They're important. They can help prevent disease. That's important. However, that is not the only thing that barriers can do, right? There are incredible variety especially in condoms. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, guys, barriers. Yes, barriers. So condoms are the main kind of barrier that we think of. Multiple different kinds of condoms. They exist. Many kinds of condoms. But condoms are not the only kind of barrier. When I talk about barrier protection, condoms are a big one. There's an internal condom, mm-hmm. which is extremely good. Like you said, gets inserted into whatever orifice you're having sex with, or having sex in, vagina or or anally, whatever.
Those feel amazing through personal experience. those are absolutely amazing.
I have no experience with how amazing they feel, but they are really good for a lot of different kinds of things, where a traditional condom might not work so well, right? Like if your partner has difficulty keeping an erection for a sustained amount of time, an internal condom can make it so that you can stop having sex, whatever, and then without having to remove a traditional condom and put another one on when your partner gets an erection back, you can just leave the internal condom in place and continue having sex whenever you feel like it. It's really good for. I've used them for underwater sex, right? In the swimming pool, where you wouldn't necessarily want to get like pool water all up in your parts. Like this allows you to have sex
without being a geyser.
Yes, thank you for that.
What?
Or without getting chlorine burns in your parts, right? Like not that your chlorine level should be that high, but it can. But if you're sensitive to it, like it can cause discomfort, like if you get chlorinated water all up in whatever orifice you're using. But an internal condom allows you to do that without that risk. You can still have sex without having this problem. So it's a different sensation, right? It's a different if you have a partner with a penis who has trouble with the lack of sensation or the slightly reduced sensation caused by a traditional condom, a female condom. They're always marketed as female condoms, even though you don't have to be a female to use one.
Yep.
An internal condom can be a solution for that. It's a different sensation, allows more friction on the penis of the person doing the penetrating, so that could be a thing. So you got traditional condoms, internal condoms, dental dams, which are a specialized item, piece of latex, sheet of latex, lay it over whatever external genitalia, traditionally vulva or anus, you want to put your face on, and can just provide a barrier for that. Again, dental dam's very specific. You can sort of like hack your way into one of those with some saran wrap or take a glove and cut it apart and use it like that, which, speaking of, gloves are one of my favorite kind of barriers to use. They not only provide, I use them primarily for anal play, just because it's way easier to whip a glove off than it is to go wash your hands, especially if, like me, you often are combining different kinds of play. Sometimes I do anal play combined with bondage. If I need to get my partner out of some bondage fast, I don't want to either put my dirty hands all over my rope and then have to wash my rope, or have to go wash my hands, because if my partner needs to come out of bondage that fast, right? I don't have time to go wash my hands. So it's easy then to just whip the gloves off and get my partner out of bondage. It makes transitioning from one activity to another way, way faster. And I have learned that if you are into intense penetration, multiple fingers or even up to fisting, having a glove on provides a smooth surface for that. Skin naturally has more friction than what a glove would have. And so when you're doing intense penetration like that, having a glove on provides that smoother surface and can make things work a little bit more smoothly. Also, skin has a bad habit of absorbing lube, makes it so you need more lube for the same thing. You need to reapply lube more often, whereas a glove doesn't absorb that, and so sometimes you can go longer without applying more lube when you're dealing with a glove. What other kinds of barriers?
Well, I was also going to say good for when you have cuts on your fingers.
Yes.
Or rough hands.
Yes, that's cuts on your fingers is a thing that a lot of people forget about, right? Like if you're concerned about disease transmission and you have a cut on your hand, like you are negating a lot of the work that you are doing by using a condom if you're putting your hand with a cut on it inside of somebody, right? Like you're still having that fluid exchange, right? You are putting somebody's bodily fluids on an open, like on like an opening in your skin. You can still have that fluid exchange. You're still putting yourself at some risk for disease if that's a concern for you. If you have rough like cuticles or calluses on your hands, that can sometimes lead to discomfort for your partner, depending on how intense your penetration is. That can get more and more of a problem. But putting a glove on that puts that smooth surface over these rough patches on your hands, makes sex more comfortable. So there are many kinds of barriers that are available that serve all kinds of purposes. Why don't people use barriers more often, Keem?
Well, so first of all, most of the time, the only barriers we know about are just condoms.
Yes.
And condoms are generally depicted in a lot of cases as something that doesn't provide a sensation, something, that it just doesn't feel the same. So that's one of the reasons people don't use barriers.
Right. So I don't have a penis, right? I don't have at least one that's attached to me. I have several that can be strapped on, but I don't have one that has nerve endings.
Rumor is that I have a natural penis.
What?
Yes, I have a dick, guys. All right, go ahead.
Anyway, so I cannot personally speak to the change in sensation caused by having a condom on. What do you say?
I can speak to that, and there is a pretty big difference also on what condom you're using. Generally, I use thin condoms, ones like the skins.
Mm-hmm.
A normal condom, I can't finish. I can't feel much, and it's very hard to climax with a normal condom. So
for you,
yeah, for me, yeah. So yeah, I can definitely speak to that. There are differences in the type of condom and using a condom in general.
So I'm going to break this one down a little bit because I'm a condom geek. I love shopping. Keem has seen my collection and can attest that I have an extreme variety of condoms in my collection. So like Keem was saying, there's a huge difference in sensation from one condom to the next, depending on what you're looking for. If you find that you have trouble having sex with a condom, first off, stop buying Trojans. I mean, that's my advice anyway, is stop buying Trojans.
Right.
But look for different kinds of condoms, right? The skin condoms are, first off, non-latex.
Right.
So they're a non-latex condom. They're a different material, which is safe for people who have latex allergies. So find other condoms, right? Things that advertise themselves as ultra thin are usually better. Things that advertise themselves as extra lubricated can sometimes have an effect. One thing to look for is sheer lawn, which is kind of new in the United States. They've become more and more popular, but they're originally from Japan, and they're a thinner but stronger kind of latex, right? Sheer lawn latex. So Crown condoms use sheer lawn.
Is sheer lawn the ones where it's like the latex is positioned like honeycomb? Because I remember there was a new thing in condom technology where... Oh,
no, the thing with the... No, hell no, don't use that. That's Lilo's Hex condom. Guys, don't use Lilo's Hex condom.
Oh, see? Big God, I'm asking questions because I've seen it. I haven't, of course, used it or anything.
Okay, so here's my rant about Lilo's Hex condom. So, this was supposedly a big new thing that was better sensation and tougher material and something, and it has a hexagonal pattern on it that breaks up the condom into individual cells, right? The point, but one of the selling points one of the selling points that they kept advertising with this condom is that the breaking of one cell in the condom doesn't cause catastrophic failure of the condom. Like, it will still stay on and largely intact even if one of the cells in the condom breaks. Guys, why is condom, like, catastrophic failure of a condom a good thing? If your condom catastrophically fails, what do?
Well, most people would stop.
Yeah, you notice immediately, and then you stop, and then you know to get tested if that's part of the agreement that you have with your partner for your safer sex practices, right? You know that you have been exposed to your partner's bodily fluids, right? Whereas if your condom doesn't catastrophically fail, you might not ever notice that you've been exposed. And then you don't know if you need to get tested. You don't know that this is a thing, right? So don't buy Lilo's Hex condom. Also, they picked, are you ready for this? As their spokesperson for this brand new product,
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie fucking Sheen, you guys. Charlie Sheen.
Charlie, I have HIV, but somehow, oh my God, Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen to be the spokesperson for this new revolution in safer sex practice. No, guys.
This means we're not getting the sponsorship from these people.
I don't care.
We're not getting.
I don't care. I don't want to get an affiliate sponsorship with Lilo. Thank you, though.
We just lost our sponsorship.
I don't want an affiliate. I would not seek out an affiliate sponsorship with Lilo because of shit like this and also other shitty marketing practices. But in any case, don't buy Lilo's Hex condom. But to go back to Sheerlawn is just another formulation of latex rubber that they're able to make it thinner and it's a little bit stronger than traditional latex. So you don't worry. I know a lot of like people who have penises that I know have concerns about ultra thin, quote unquote ultra thin condoms as being less reliable and easier to break. But these are not that. They're a stronger latex formulation. Like I said, so Crown condoms have it. There's a few other brands that are kind of easily available. Check out websites for these. Condoms.com is a good one. I just go to my local sex shop and dig through their individual sale bins.
For those of you in Mississippi, you're definitely going to go online because we have like two in Mississippi, like two sex shops. So you're probably not going to be able to go to your local sex shop and get it.
Which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But, so Sheerlawn, if you type in Sheerlawn into any website, it will come up with a variety of condoms that are Sheerlawn. Like I said, there's a variety of brands that are like that. That being said, there's a trend, not to feed into any racial stereotypes, but there is a trend that any condom that's being manufactured in Japan is actually slightly on the small side for what you normally see in the United States. So if you happen to, if you have issues with condoms sometimes being too small, if you're shopping for Sheerlawn that's produced in Japan, seek out the large size of whatever it is that you're buying, because you might have issues with that. And you do want to have a condom that fits you properly, right? You want to make sure that you've got one that's the right size.
You don't want that bad boy slipping off or hurting.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Also, I will say that's another thing I hear from a lot of guys, myself, for reason they don't use barriers. They say it hurts.
If your condom hurts you, you're using the wrong size.
Yes. Like, it should not be hurting you. Like, I'm sorry. I don't mean to burst your bubble, okay? But you're not the biggest dude in the world. There's one guy, and he's 13 inches, and whatever. But you're not the biggest guy in the world. So every condom should not be hurting you, okay? It shouldn't.
There is a condom out there that will fit on you.
Right. Like,
it exists.
Sorry to burst your bubble.
They exist. They're out there. There's a variety of them. It's a thing.
I actually had this conversation with someone.
Go on condoms.com, look at their variety packs. There's a large size variety pack. There is. Unfortunately, many of the large size condoms that are available are still made by Trojan. Guys, if you like Trojan, I mean, that's fine, I suppose, but there is so much. If you hate condoms and the only thing you've ever used is Trojan, boy, oh boy, are you in for a surprise.
Oh.
There is so much more out there.
Also, my brothers. I know you're trying to prove a point. I know Trojan has the name, but magnums suck. You want to put a magnum because you have the magnum by your bed and you think it makes you look better. It doesn't. Magnums suck. Mm-hmm. Magnums are bad. They're awful. Stop getting magnums. Go search for something else. You don't have to show off. If he or she is there with you and they've made that decision, it's fine. You don't have to impress anyone. Okay.
Right, like they can see your cock.
Yeah, it's fine.
They know what size it is.
Oh, I got a magnum.
In any case, there's like a variety, huge variety of textures, of materials. Textures, guys, there are textured condoms. There's so many kinds of textures. Do not knock it until you have tried it. I'm gonna plug my favorite one, which is the Impulse ribbed and studded ones. What's it called? Like Bare Pleasure or something. They're amazing. They're my favorite. I will promote those to anybody ever.
The little red pack.
Nah, the brown one.
Oh, that's red to me. Ish. It's reddish brown.
No, the wrapper is brown. The condom is red.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. Okay.
In any case, they're amazing. But experiment, right? Like, go onto these condom websites. They have variety packs. You can get textured variety packs. You can get size variety packs. You can get all of the things. Find a condom that works for you. It is out there. I promise you. That's a thing, right? I feel like some of these other barriers we don't use because we don't know about them. Right. I went and educated the people at my local sex shop about what an internal condom is. They had never heard of them. And I'm like, you guys, this is a huge thing. Like, seriously, internal condoms, it's a thing. And they're like, no, but what about this? And what about that? I'm like, no, internal condoms are a thing. They're great. They have purposes. They exist for a reason. They're awesome. Dental dams and gloves, right? These are all things that it's the perception there is that you don't need them because of whatever reason, right? And it's they're less commonly included in people's safer sex practices, right. But don't discount them, right? They can still be handy. They can still be handy to have around. I will admit that I've never used a dental dam per se. I have used the like cheap hacks, right? Like plastic wrap. Just because a dental dam is a specific, like you have to go out and buy it if you can find a place where you can get it. Again, most of the condom websites have them, but also it's kind of hard to find ones that aren't flavored. And flavors can cause some people problems.
All right.
I'm going to add that one onto my rant. Flavors, guys. Flavors can cause people problems. Don't put flavored stuff in your junk.
No one likes irritation and
right.
yeast infections.
Yes,
and such.
Right. Like the things that make a condom or a dental dam flavored can cause irritation for a lot of people. Some of the ingredients like glycerin can promote yeast infections in some people if you're sensitive to it. So don't just do flavored condoms, right? Like flavored condoms aren't there for like vaginal or anal sex. Anyway, they're there for oral sex, which is a valid thing to use for it, right? Like if your safer sex practices call for you to use a condom during oral, like that can be something if you are into that, right? If you have a problem with the flavor of just regular latex, a flavored condom can be good for that. But yeah, so that's a thing. Why else don't people use barriers?
I haven't had two good ones.
There's one other big thing.
Okay, you gotta give me that one.
Which is that in mainstream pornography, there's either no barriers shown or it's glossed over as something that happens, right? Like
Right.
in one shot, there's no condom, and then in the next shot, there is a condom.
I've
Right.
actually seen a lot of people on porn sites, because for some reason I go to the comment section on porn sites.
I feel like that says something about you as a person.
But a lot of the time when there is a very obvious, very visible condom, visible barrier in every scene, in every shot, people complain. People will complain. They're like, take the condom off.
Right, because there's this perception that barrier protection isn't sexy, right? And there's like subsets of fantasy, which has unfortunately become really, really mainstream, that sex is only hot if there's no barrier there, right? If there's no condom, there's no gloves, there's no whatever. And mainstream porn totally feeds into that. And so there's this perception. One of the reasons that people are really hesitant to use barrier protection during sex is because there's this feeling that it's not sexy, right? Like putting a condom on is something that takes away from the moment, right? Like you have to stop and do the thing, and it's a whole thing that's separate from the sex that you're having. But guys, putting a condom on somebody can be really fucking sexy. I don't know if you know this, right? It is totally possible to make it part of the moment, right? Right, like there's a way to ask for a condom in the moment that tells your partner, yes, we're gonna have sex now, right? To quote again, this is Bex again, who I love. I'm gonna quote Bex again. Said it specifically in the context of using gloves, right? They said, I love it when people put gloves on because that means things are going in holes, right?
It's like when a doctor is putting his glove on, it's like surgery is about to happen. Pow, he snaps.
See, I have weird feelings about that image, but that's okay. Some people are into that. But no, like there's, I feel like a need to embrace barrier protection as something that, first off, doesn't have to take away from the sexiness of the moment, right? Like this can be part of the moment. You can make this part of the moment. And part of that is just not being embarrassed about doing it, right? Like if you are having safer sex and you want to put a condom on, you don't have to suddenly stop being intimate with your partner, right? Like you can reach over to the bedside table to grab your condom while you're like kissing your partner's neck. Like there's sexy ways to do this. You don't have to stop the action and make this a whole separate thing before you then get back into the act. It's like nobody yells, cut, okay, let's put a condom on, right? You don't have to stop it.
And that brings up what I was about to say.
Yeah.
There's a difference between you and a porn star. Professional porn stars, that is their job. They are rigorously tested. There are things put in place for when they don't use barriers.
Yes.
And if something happens, things shut down and it's taken care of. People in the public, you are not porn stars. You don't have these protections in most cases.
Yes. I was listening to an interview on another podcast that I listened to, Sex Gets Real, with an extreme porn star who came out and said that in the section of the industry that she worked in, all of the performers, every person that she had sex with in her entire career had a full blood test workup every 2 weeks.
Yep.
Every 2 weeks, guys. Imagine going in and getting a full blood test workup every 2 weeks. Unless you and your partner and every person that your partner has sex with are getting a full blood test workup every 2 weeks. Like, use a barrier. It's important. It's important. Or, I mean, okay. Like, there's negotiation that can be put in place about barrier usage. But don't be going and having casual sex with people without a barrier.
Right.
But the point I was trying to get at, which is fix your brain. Fix your brain. Barriers don't have to be a non-sexy thing, right? You can make it be sexy. And part of it is just fixing your own attitude about it, right? Don't be embarrassed when it's time to stop and put a condom on, right? Just accept that it's part of the sex that you're having. This is you and your partner both enthusiastically participating in the sex that you both want to have.
Right.
Right? Nobody needs to be embarrassed about having exactly the kind of sex that they want to have, including having sex that's as safe as you want to have. You don't need to be embarrassed about that. That is a great thing. That's a beautiful thing for you and your partner to both value protecting one another, right? So fix your brain. Consume feminist porn, right? Go seek out porn that not only shows the performers involved using a condom, but that shows like them putting the condom on, right? Go seek out porn that has the performers not only using gloves, but putting the gloves on. Find porn that models for you how to do these things in a way that's sexy. Like that will go a long way toward helping to fix your brain about whether or not you think barrier protection is sexy. Because it is, right? Fix your brain.
Can I add like two things to this conversation?
Yes.
Because I think it needs to be said on the topic of barriers. One, ladies, and by ladies, I'm going to go with like straight ladies who are having sex with, men, in most cases with penises. Have condoms.
Yes.
Okay? It's not... Be safe, have condoms. Have your own condoms. Even like emergency, whatever. Keep condoms on you. Because you could be in a moment with a guy and you're getting hot and heavy and he goes, hey, I don't have a condom. And some guys will use that as an excuse to not wear protection, not wear a barrier. Have condoms. If a guy goes, I don't have a condom, you go, hey, don't worry. I got you, bro. Maybe not bro, but I got you.
I mean, I would say bro.
And if he goes, no, I don't want to use it, get him out of there.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Out.
For everybody involved, an Altoids tin is exactly the right size for 3 condoms and a like sample pack of lube, for the record.
And the second thing, this is for the black community. I see a lot of young black men and young black women who do not use barriers. For the black men, it's I don't feel it, can't feel anything, so I don't want to use it. Black women, it's like what black women go, well, I want my partner to be able to enjoy it, like Esmé was saying, fix your brain because you can still enjoy it. Get the right thing. Go out and look for it. Black people, we are at increased, like a heightened risk for HIV. We are, and we also at a heightened risk for other STIs. We're at a heightened risk for unwanted pregnancy. It is a very dangerous game you're playing. Go look up barriers. Go take the time and keep yourself safe. I know way too many young men and women who are in situations right now, personally, because they chose not to wear a condom. They chose not to when given the option, and that is not good.
Yeah, your partner's enjoyment is not more important than your health.
Exactly.
Use a condom. Fix it. Fix your brain. Use the condom. Using barrier protection every time will ensure that you are able to continue to have the sex that you want to have. It ensures that you are able to be healthy, that you are able to have the life that you want. Right. The other attitude that I see that prevents condom usage in particular, right, is that abstinence-only education teaches that abstinence is the only 100% effective method for preventing whatever, XYZ.
And you tell Mary that.
And then, shush, we're not bringing religion into this right now any more than it needs to be, right? But abstinence-only education teaches that abstinence is the only 100% effective method for preventing these things. And many of the abstinence-only curricula therefore imply that condoms are not effective. Guys, that is not true. Condoms are 98% effective against pregnancy and disease when used correctly. 98%. That is not a number to sneeze at. That is not a number to say, oh, well, they're not 100% effective, so I may as well just not use them. No. 98% is almost 100, guys.
That's still an A.
Yeah, like that's a big thing, right? Use protection. It is true, I will say, okay, fine. It is true that abstaining from sexual activity is the only way to 100% not expose yourself to unwanted pregnancy or to disease. That is true. But this is a calculated risk. Right? This is a calculated risk. If you never use barrier protection, you are at and you have casual sex with people, you are basically at a 100% exposing yourself to something. Whereas if you consistently use barrier protection, you're much, much less likely to be exposed to these kinds of things, right? Use condoms. Just because it's not 100% effective does not mean that it's not incredibly effective and should be part of the safer sex practices that you use.
And I want to make one more comment on back to my Mississippians. They recently, HIV tests used to be free with the Department of Health. They just changed that. They now charge you for them, and Mississippi is very much in the middle of an HIV epidemic. So barriers, condoms. If you're out there having sex, you need some sort of protection. You need something that protects you because it's dangerous. And the politicians have made it harder for you to be safe. So you step up. Use your protection.
Use your protection.
Whew.
But yes, so to lighten it up as we wrap up, guys, barrier protection is a thing. And when you are dealing, we're going to talk about consent and negotiation at some point again about your safer sex negotiations. But everybody has a right to have their boundaries respected. So if you are with somebody, if your safer sex practices only include using a condom, right? Condom is the only barrier that you typically use, but you're with somebody who wants to use a barrier for oral sex or who wants to use a barrier for whatever kind of sex. You need to respect that. And also, it's a really good idea and shows a lot of respect for your partner if you have a little kit with you. Like if you have your sex kit that you take with you, which a lot of people do, that includes condoms, go to the grocery store and pick up a box of nitrile food prep gloves for $1 and throw a couple of gloves in your thing, right? Because you can use a glove, like I said, for a lot of different things. You can cut it apart and use it as a dam, whatever, right? Have a couple of gloves in there with you. Just because that shows a lot of respect for your partner. It shows that you are willing, even if it's not something that you use regularly on your own for your own practices, it shows that you know that other people might have different boundaries and that you're willing to respect those. But that being said, respect the boundaries of whoever you're with, right? The person with the most strict boundaries is who sets the boundaries, right? That's the person's practices that you follow, right? That's just how safe sex works. But yeah, with that, so like I mentioned, if you're really hurting and you're local, you can get condoms at your local grocery store or drugstore. Durex is good. Lifestyles are good. They're usually pretty easily available. My personal opinion is that Trojans suck and are not worth buying, but that's just me, I suppose. They smell bad. They taste bad. I don't like them.
Condoms are also available at the health department.
Yes. The health department has condoms available. There's many, many different places that you can go pick up condoms. Planned Parenthood provides condoms. If you if you have a local sex shop, I know in Memphis we have several. You could go to Crystals or Romantics. Ins and Outs has some. They have a little bit more variety. than like the drugstore does, that's a good place to go. If you're looking for even more variety, you can go to condoms.com. Just like look up places where you can go to condoms or where you can get condoms. If you are in a place where buying condoms is prohibitively expensive for you, that does not mean that you have no options, right? If you don't have to avoid having sex just because you can't afford to have condoms. There are resources for free condoms. If you are in Mississippi, check out the AIDS Services Coalition. If you go to ascms.net, they have a service where they will deliver condoms for free to you. You just have to go. You fill out a survey and they will mail you condoms for free so that you can still continue to be protected even though you are in a place in your life where this is something that is cost prohibitive for you. Do not let cost prevent you from having protected sex. If you are in Tennessee or if you're in Memphis, go to freecondomsmemphis.org. They partner with Planned Parenthood to provide free condoms at various locations around town. I know Choices, you can get free condoms. I know they have Free Condoms Memphis has a partnership. One of their locations is Underground Art if you're in Midtown. But there are places, you can go to freecondomsmemphis.org and look at that, and they will give you all the locations for where you can go to pick up your free condoms so that you can continue to have that. And if you are not located in Mississippi or in Memphis, just type in free condoms and wherever it is that you are, because there is probably a service that will provide those for you so that you can continue to have that protected sex. Now,
tomorrow, June 12th, will be the 1 year anniversary of the Pulse shooting. And this is the date, what day show's coming out on and where we recorded. I'd like to, have a reminder of the tragedy. And, this is what our Pride shows are about, to give support to the community, to acknowledge that when these things happen in work, to try to make sure these type of things don't happen anymore. So I wanted to give an acknowledgement of the 1 year anniversary of Pulse shootings. Of course, our hearts still go out to the victims and their families. Last year, you can ask Esmé, I had a very strong reaction to that incident. I think it's one of the things that actually made me stop, put the show on hiatus for a while. It got to me pretty bad. So I wanted to acknowledge that, after coming back and this Pride Month, want to have a special acknowledgement towards the Pulse shooting. And like I said, our hearts and spirits go out to the victims and their families. We're with you, we're with you through all your grief, through all your struggle, and a reminder to stay strong no matter what comes at you. I guess with that, anything you want to add? I'd like to give once again another special thank you to the Living Room Leftists.
Yay!
For being our guest, our musical artist for the week yet again. Also, we keep saying this, if you are a musician or artist of some sort who would like to have your music on the show, who would like to be interviewed, because we will interview you. We would love to. Please contact us. We want to hear more. I've gotten into more punk recently because of this. Punk really wasn't my thing, but I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the Glory Holes. I've enjoyed the Living Room Leftists very much. So please contact us. We would love to have you on the show. We would love to give your music out. We're music lovers. Ready. Also, anybody who's listening to this who wants to come yell about something.
Yes.
You're welcome to come on the show. just contact us via Facebook. Right now, we're working on other forms of social media in the future that you can contact us. Hey, we'll get you on. We'll let you talk. We love getting the voices out there.
That is true.
And a second very special thanks to Morgan Stringer.
Yay, Morgan.
For coming and talking with us today. We will have her on the show in the future again. Morgan loves to come and talk about stuff. As a matter of fact, Morgan comes to my house almost every week to come talk about stuff.
Excellent.
And you can find her on the Bisexual podcast with Trav.
Yes.
I'm also a big fan of Trav. So go check that out.
Yeah, Trav has been posting from the American Humanist Association convention this week, and I am loving it. It's amazing.
So go check out Trav and Morgan. Like I said, we love them both. They're great, and we're trying to. I hope to get Trav on the show soon. But Morgan is gonna be back. She's a close friend. So yeah, hope you enjoyed her, and thank you so much, Morgan, and thank all of our listeners for listening in today. We've had fun.
Yes,
we've had fun, and I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. I learned a lot of stuff. It's hard, but learning, I love it. And I guess with that, we are going to bid you all a good week. Mm-hmm. From me and from Esmé.
Bye, y'all.
And we are out.
But there are these things that matter, and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.